And on Thursday, Mayor Quinton Lucas announced a ban on all public events in KCMO with more than 1,000 people. And that caused several events to be canceled, like St. Patrick's Day Parade and the Greater KC Home Show. But according to the mayor this morning, that social distancing warning may not be getting the intended results. He went to Twitter this morning to share his frustrations after seeing crowds gathering Saturday night throughout places like Westport. In one tweet, he said, quote, "There's a problem here. Full bars and long, close lines outside don't support social distancing. I'm all too familiar. There's a balance we have to strike for, but it can't fully ignore public health." As promised, Mayor Quinton Lucas is here with me live in the studio. Mayor, thank you for joining us this morning. We know that this kind of set you off a little bit. So how did you come to find out that people were gathering after the ban and after your social distancing warning?
So, about a week ago, I gave my cell phone number out to the whole city, actually to talk about violent crime. And there has been an Uber driver who texts me just about every day with updates of what's going on. And in essence, he said, the social distancing isn't really working so much right now. Talked about the crowds that he saw in Westport, lines outside the door, just a whole lot of activity, having 32 rides last night. And so it was like a normal weekend, if not an even better one. And while we still have restaurants and bars open, we really did want people to adhere to more space. And unfortunately, it doesn't look like we've been doing enough of that. And that's a challenge for us.
What do you tell people? I mean, you saw the pictures and we have them up right now. I mean, look at that line right there. Yeah. Tons of people out. So what do you tell people? Maybe they're up right now after hanging out and they can hear what you have to say about this.
I think people need to take the threat seriously. I mean, I understand as much as anybody wanting to get out in crowds. I'm a politician after all. But it is important right now that if you're going out, you try to get that space for restaurants, bars, and others to try to have fewer folks there as an occupancy matter. I mean, right now we're trying to make it, frankly, voluntary for compliance instead of mandatory. And we understand at this point we're not Italy or Spain with mass quarantines, and we don't want to get there. And the way we help avoid that is making sure that we're actually following those good public health ideas. Space between folks, making sure you're using good hygiene, all of that, and frankly, at this point, probably minimizing some of those trips out each day.
In one of those tweets, and you talked about being a politician, you wanting to get out, you talked about kind of looking at your routine and maybe changing that up. What are some of the things you've come up with this weekend?
So, I eat out all the time, for example, which isn't necessarily the healthiest for me either. But I think, frankly, getting a chance to make more meals at home, finding opportunities to have smaller groups, frankly, not going into City Hall as much. Usually I go in over the weekend. I decided there was more work for home opportunity both that I could do and frankly that my staff can do as well. And long term, something that we're really going to have to do is figure out how can we support those in small businesses, restaurants, and others while recognizing they're not going to have the same business they had before. So those are gift cards, that's ordering in and out. For those establishments that don't have that, it's really going to be local government working with ways so that they can try to maintain their staffs throughout this crisis.
What might you do next? What could be the next step? We already said, hey, we need to do some social distancing. Obviously, after seeing those tweets, not quite happening the way you thought about it. So what would be next steps?
So, we continue to look at the large event ban in Kansas City, Missouri right now. It's only 1,000 people. In Jackson County, outside of Kansas City, it's 250. Johnson County, Kansas, same story. We may look to that, frankly, at a certain point, depending on where public health goes. We may look to even making some more mandatory restrictions on occupancy within bars or restaurants, perhaps half the size allowed in as opposed to what we're seeing right now. A lot of things are on the table. We don't want to have to do them, but we also don't want to have to deal with a crisis where our hospitals are overrun and that sort of thing. And if people don't understand what this crisis is like, think about those lines at Costco and the grocery stores that we were seeing earlier in the week. We don't want that at our hospitals. And we recognize if we get that, then we're going to have folks running out of supplies in the same way we were running out of toilet paper before. That's a little lighter when you're looking at what was going on at Costco. We don't want that in our emergency rooms.
One last quick question. We know Johnson County, Wyandotte County, they both have confirmed cases. Anybody confirmed here in Kansas City?
So, in Kansas City, Missouri, through the grace of God, right now there are no confirmed cases, but frankly, we've seen, in essence, community spread, at least in one of the Wyandotte County cases. I think we've seen another one in central Missouri, and so frankly, it is time for us to probably think that there may be folks walking around. That's why our containment strategy remains important.
All right, thank you so much.